Hello guys, and welcome back to another video in our channel. In our analysis today, we look at the game between Manchester City and Tottenham Hotspur. The game ended in a 3-3 draw, and this game was quite crucial and entertaining and very important for Manchester City, who are looking to secure their title. So, Pep Guardiola faced Ange Postecoglou for the first time in the Premier League, and Pep Guardiola dropped 2 points while his competitors in Liverpool and Arsenal gained 2 points over him during this weekend. Ange Postecoglou will be happy with the draw away at Manchester City. So we're going to understand how Tottenham, which is a team that has been quite a thorn in the flesh of Pep, and how Tottenham managed to destroy City time and time again. So before we even start our analysis, I'd like us to look at how the two teams lined up. So Manchester City lined up in their usual 3-2-4-1 system with Ange starting in midfield alongside Rodri, and this system shifted to a 4-4-2 without possession, with Ange dropping back into the backline, with key players such as John Stones making the starting 11 but from the bench. Tottenham Hotspur, on the other hand, lined up in their default 4-2-3-1 system, this time with Kulusevski starting as the number 10, with Bryan Gil coming in to start as a left winger. Postecoglou started Tottenham's backline with all fullbacks, with Emerson Royal and Ben Davies starting as the two centre-backs. But before we start our analysis, I want to share this information with you. So this we have a second channel known as Talk Football TY with where we show clips, and in our second channel our main themes of focus will be the other top 6 clubs such as Manchester City, Tottenham Hotspur, Liverpool, Manchester United, as well as action throughout Europe's top 5 leagues such as Real Madrid, Barcelona, and other teams. So we know that some of our subscribers here support different teams, and we also want to be considerate to them. So therefore, subscribe to our new channel so that you can get exclusive content for these clubs. Before we continue, do not forget to like, share and subscribe to this channel as well as our other channel. Link will be in the description area. So Manchester City in this game played in such a fascinating way, and I'm going to bring the tactical board and explain how Manchester City played throughout the 90. So let's look at them since they had majority of possession. So in the first half, we know very well that Manchester City liked to build with Ederson starting as a third centre back. So Tottenham were quite conservative, but immediately when the ball would be played to Diaz, Heung-min Son will immediately engage Diaz in a press, with Gil and Kulusevski sitting on Akanji and Rodri. So they wanted the ball to go to Walker, since Walker is not quite capable on the ball, and time again Walker would either lose the ball in these scenarios or just play the ball backward. And since they know Walker is not quite adventurous with the ball, they could enable him to have time on the ball. Here you can see Manchester City are trying to build from the back. Ange has dropped in from midfield to act as a third centre-back, with Ruben Diaz playing on the other side of Ederson. You can see how Tottenham has committed 5 players to press Manchester City. So here you can see Ruben Diaz has the ball, Akanji is in midfield, and you can see Son is constantly putting pressure. One key thing that we saw in this game was that Tottenham would not allow Manchester City's centre-backs any time and space on the ball. So the ball will be played to Walker, and Gil will immediately shift from pressing Rodri and move to press Walker. And this is what now prompted Bernardo Silva to start coming wide to receive the ball, because Manchester City had problems breaking out. So the main thing that you need to understand is that the ball will be pressed momentarily, and Brendan Johnson was so aggressive against Vardiol because Vardiol is more potent on the ball compared to Walker. So the ball will be played to Walker, And since Manchester City had realized that Tottenham were giving them space in the right-hand flank, Bernardo Silva started to play in this pseudo right-back position where he would receive the ball with no pressure, but in some instances Bissouma would attempt to try to shift across to try and cover him. But in the first instances of the game, Bernardo Silva will be moving in a free role to receive the ball, while Rodri will be making that run behind Bissouma to receive the ball, and now Manchester City would be running with a man advantage against Tottenham's backline. Here you can see Gil has stepped out to press Kyle Walker, and you can see Bernardo Silva is in acres of space to receive a direct ball from Kyle Walker. So Walker plays the ball to Bernardo Silva receives the ball, and now Manchester City can shift the play to Jeremy Doku. Remember, the position of Julian Alvarez made Pedro Porro to play quite narrow, and Doku has time and space to receive the ball. So Manchester City during the first half was so dominant and had majority of possession. Alternatively, Manchester City also deployed their two centre-backs in Akanji and Ruben Dias to play slightly deeper. This was trying to relieve pressure from midfield, and this is how they did it. Now they moved into a more 4-3-3 build-up with Rodri being the deepest player in midfield. And Manchester City's main aim was to progress the ball through the wide areas. And most importantly, they exploited the left-hand flank, where Jeremy Doku would be pushing in to try and occupy Pedro Porro, and Ederson would find Vardiol in acres of space where Vardiol would receive the ball and immediately look to progress with the ball high up the pitch. And this is why Jeremy Doku in the first half was having a lot of time and space to run at his fullback. Here you can see Tottenham are committing 5 players to press Manchester City. Ederson is standing on the ball and is looking likely to draw in Son. So when Son moves to press Ederson and Brendan Johnson moves to press Akanji, the space is free for Vardiol to receive a direct ball from Ederson. You can see the position of Jeremy Doku is limiting Pedro Porro from coming out and trying to cover Vardiol. Akanji has picked up Lo Celso, and therefore Lo Celso cannot move to cover Vardiol. So Vardiol has time and space on the ball, and Jeremy Doku now can be played through and have a 1v1 against Pedro Porro. And this is why Jeremy Doku had a lot of joy in the first half, though Porro managed to contain him throughout the 90. Now, in more progressive phases of play, Manchester City shifted to their default 3-2-4-1 system, where they have this box-shaped midfield. And because Tottenham knew Manchester City had this system, they looked for a way in how they could mitigate this overload in midfield. And this was by pushing Johnson on one centre-back, while Son would stay on Akanji, and Gil would start quite narrower together with Kulusevski, where they would pick the two pivots. So Bernardo Silva was the key outlet in this kind of system, and you can see his position. Bernardo Silva is the one who will shift out wide to give the team options to escape the constant pressure from Tottenham Hotspur. So you can see here that Diaz has been put under so much pressure, and credit goes to Son, since Son denied him any time and space on the ball. And in the first half, especially earlier on the game, Diaz used to pass the ball back to Ederson. You can see here Gil is already closing in Walker, and the only pass that Walker has is the pass to Bernardo Silva. But Bissouma, who had moved now to press Rodri, cannot stop Bernardo Silva in this position. So what we started to see is Manchester City attempting to switch the ball quickly to the wide areas because they had numerical superiority. Down the left-hand flank, the triangle of Doku, Vardiol, and Alvarez created all sorts of issues for Pedro Porro and Bissouma, since now the entire Tottenham backline had to shift across to try and mitigate this overload. and this will be aided by either Doku attempting a run past the fullback or slipping in Julian Alvarez, who made some cutbacks, but Erling Haaland did not manage to capitalize. Let's look at what Spurs did in possession, because also Spurs were quite interesting, and how they played in possession is what influenced the outcome of the game, since 2 of the goals they conceded was a result of their play in possession that Manchester City capitalized with their excellent press. So Spurs usually try to build up from the back, and they did that time and time again. As we know, that is the philosophy of Ange. So Manchester City employed their usual 4-4-2-4 press, with Haaland picking one centre back and Alvarez picking the other. But when Vicario had the ball, ManCity realized that Davies is better on the ball and usually tried to force the ball to be played to Emerson Royal. So Royal would receive the ball in this instant and immediately look to play in Pedro Porro, where Manchester City now would engage in a touchline press and win the ball off Tottenham. This created a lot of problems for Tottenham in the first half. Now, in the instance where Vicario would stand on the ball and draw in an attacker, Alvarez, to press him, Royal would have time and space with the ball and would advance with the ball in midfield, giving Tottenham a numerical advantage in midfield, especially the 2v1 against Rodri created by Lo Celso and Kulusevski starting high up the pitch. Now, in instances where Vicario played the ball quick enough for Emerson Royal, in this instance, this could also be aided by Vicario playing the ball to Bissouma and Bissouma playing a flick-on pass to Emerson Royal, who will now attempt to play a pass further high up the pitch. Manchester City's man-to-man approach really gave them some advantages, since if the ball would be played to the centre-backs directly, then the 2 forwards will engage. And this will be aided with even Diaz joining Rodri in midfield to mitigate this overload. And Rodri will use his excellent reading of the game to win the ball in midfield and play the ball in to the likes of Doku, Alvarez, and in some instances, Manchester City had time to score goals from this quick winning of balls, especially during Tottenham's build-up. But Erling Haaland was wasteful this game, and therefore Manchester City did not capitalize on all these chances they had after pressing Tottenham high up the pitch. The thing to understand is the advantage that Tottenham had with playing Lo Celso and Kulusevski high up the pitch. Lo Celso will drop deep to receive the ball and attempt to play penetrative passes to Kulusevski. This is especially when Rodri will decide to also push up and press him. But when the ball would be played to Gil was not physically dominant against Walker, and Walker managed to win the ball off him time and time again. And this proved very devastating for Tottenham, since Manchester City were limiting them from playing their game. So in the second half, we saw Højbjerg coming in, and this made now Brendan Johnson and Kulusevski to start in their more natural position, and Lo Celso moving into the number 10 position. So having these 3 pacey forwards inhibited Manchester City's backline from dropping deep to try and press, and Lo Celso position in between the lines complemented with Udogie and Pedro Porro also inverting high up the pitch. The 6-man attack created by Tottenham high up the pitch will give a lot of problems for Manchester City, since now including Vicario and Højbjerg in the build-up, Tottenham were now in settled possession. This is why Tottenham's possession rose against Manchester City in the second half, and Tottenham were able now to play their game effectively. And Ange Postecoglou explained this in his post-match analysis, saying that they were so lucky City did not blow them away in the first half. So they would form this front 5 with either Lo Celso picking up a position in the right or left half space, and Pedro Porro inverting alongside Bissouma and Højbjerg. You can see here the position of Emerson Royal, and Ben Davies, and you can see the position of Bissouma and Lo Celso, who are playing as the two double pivots. Pedro Porro and Udogie are playing as the two attacking number 10s behind the front line. You can see here that Manchester City are engaging Tottenham in a very aggressive mid-block press, with the two forwards going against the two centre-backs, but Tottenham have a man advantage since they have two holding midfielders who are competent on the ball. Another key thing to understand is that Tottenham like to narrow the pitch so that they can create spaces in the wide areas where they would play their ball directly to their wide wingers, who would now look to try to engage Manchester City's fullbacks. So in some instances, Manchester City will win the ball off Tottenham and will attempt to play these balls in the spaces vacated by the two advanced fullbacks. And this is what led to the controversial point of the game with the through ball to Jack Grealish. So Pep Guardiola meets Ange Postecoglou for the first time in the Premier League, though the two met in pre-season between Yokohama and Manchester City. These are two clubs under the City club sponsorship, like a company owned by the city where they manage different clubs all over the world. So the two managers had fascinating tactics, and both teams were not afraid to go against each other. So Pep Guardiola would feel like these were 2 points drop, considering that Manchester City had the best XG, and also considering his two opponents in Tottenham and Arsenal, who managed to win during the weekend. Manchester City so far have conceded 10 goals from their past 4 games, and this is a statement of worry for Pep, as Pep tries to look for a way to stop his team from leaking goals. So if you watched this video, do not forget to go and subscribe to our new channel in the description area below. If you stayed with us, thanks for watching.